however much visual information you can sort of present up front, right? That really helps the client sort of envision it for themselves, because they might not necessarily be artists or animators either.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being really important to kind of convince them and also create this picture in their minds.
You know, a lot of these networks and clients, you know, they've done a million music videos or shows. A lot of the individuals working don't know what they want until they see it, or until they see what they don't want.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to get notes on notes. So if you can be as descriptive and as, you know, as visual as you can up front, it'll help them make decisions on their end. And
Yeah.
just, you can't assume that they're going to understand even what you're writing or saying. So there's a communication is like really key.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So then you won the bid. Congratulations. And then what, right?
So I'll start with so this is the treatment that we created in order to pitch to Sony to win the project. And we wanted to make the entire treatment feel like what the eventual music video that we're envisioning feels like, so they could already like dive in and know like, oh, this is the color palette, this is what the character is going to look like. And we had to create this treatment in a matter of days. Like they reached out to me on like September 1st, and we had to go back and forth with some of the logistics of like, you know, NDAs and contracts and this and that. And then the treatment was due on the 8th.
Wow.
To Sony, but I also had to show the production company I was working with a little bit sooner so they could input their notes and add any text. So, you know, but it had to be due really before the 8th.
Wow.
So I enlisted the help of my sister, who was like a great designer, and she's been working with me a lot on Shabazzle as a whole. So she helped figure out the color palette and pick. She's a wonderful font picker. So I let her pick the fonts. And then we kind of put it all together. So this was the first page, and it has our logo and Cousin's logo, so Sony doesn't miss whose pitch they're looking at. We started out, I had to come up with like how I imagined this. Like I hadn't done any work on the video yet. I just had a matter of days to be like, okay, here's a song, let me listen to it 99 times and how do I envision this to look? So, you know, we're basically here listing out and writing out how we imagine the story to flow and this, the visual look of the music video. We have to kind of list out and sell them here in writing. I'm not a writer, so just trying to do the best I could to convince them that, you know, this is going to be beautiful. So we wanted to use clean graphic shapes and silhouettes and a lot of jewel tones. And we wanted to be kind of simple because we knew we'd be making this. We wanted to be limited animation because we knew we'd only have a matter of weeks to animate this, but we also wanted the backgrounds to look visually rich and expensive. And we want the story to flow scene to scene. So we also imagined never repeating anything in the video. And then also designing Eartha to feel like Eartha, but she wasn't supposed to originally have any lip sync, barely any animation or movement. We just kind of wanted each scene to feel like a beautiful image that might sparkle, or like she might just tilt her head or something. But as you work with clients, they always want more and more in limited amount of time. So the next page, we broke down like who's collaborating. I made a little quote that I felt was applicable. And then we just described like who, you know, about my company and about Cousins. So Sony knows who's working on the project. We picked out a lot of poses and some of the characters that Eartha Kitt had over the course of her career, because she's such a character. Like she's done so many cool things, from like Catwoman to Yzma,
Yeah.
and you know, she was a dancer, and like a lot of her poses are just so striking. So we wanted to make sure like we're gonna incorporate, let them know we're gonna be using a lot of this reference.
Mm.
Here's the color palette we decided on, just like very rich jewel tones, but not too hot. And so it could still feel a little bit moody.
Okay.
And then we wanted to make sure, you know, Eartha felt like a woman of color in her skin tone. So gonna let them know that. And then we did a couple of quick style frames. You'll see like the style frames feel a little similar to the final product, but a lot of times what you envision in the beginning, you know, doesn't end up looking exactly like when you finally get down to making the actual show, just because of time constraints and yeah, just things you discover along the way. But we wanted to have a lot of textures and patterns to keep, you know, the eye moving and feel like you're looking at a lot of movement and animation. But really all this scene, I imagine just the boat would be sliding across the frame. And then here, you know, to give that film noir feel, we wanted to have, you know, people smoked all the time back then, and, you know, smoke and cigarettes and interesting lighting. And actually they ended up saying, like, when we showed this to the client, they're like, no smoking. Nobody
really?
smokes in anything on TV anymore, rarely, unless it's like a movie. So we want it palatable for everybody, all ages. We're not trying to endorse smoking. So we're like, okay, I agree with it. I'm not a big smoker. I mean, I'm not a smoker at all, but like, I don't, you know, I don't, I get it.
Yeah, it's funny because working in preschool, right, there's a lot of restrictions on what you can show on screen. So it's funny that some of that still kind of haunts you, even in non-preschool work. But yeah, it's a good note.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good note. And then I had to quickly thumbnail out like how I envisioned the storyboard to be. So these are just thumbnails, and then I have the lyrics here, and then I'm describing how I imagine, you know, the story to flow visually. And then I included a couple of thumbnails here and there. And this, I wanted because it was originally supposed to have very limited animation, I figured a lot of the elements or the transitions between scenes would be what carries us through the story. And so here's where I describe some of that. So it's like a simple color background and a single spotlight will highlight her character. And then I describe that the camera will push in, and the sable becomes a cat, and then the cat runs into another scene, and then, you know, just how this all goes along. And you can see my like drawings are very, very simple. Some of these I actually, like this one, I traced a photo of her and just kind of treated it sketchy so that I could, because I had to bust these out so quickly. But thankfully, like, as long as you or if you're able to sketch clearly enough, like they don't have to be perfectly clean, just you need to just get your idea across. And the client, thankfully, between the descriptions and the thumbnails, was able to be like, yeah, we see what your vision is and we love it. And we ended up winning the pitch.
Wow.
And the last page of the treatment.